love. So the doctors want to take your womb away. They're suggesting a hysterectomy. You might want to look up online the payout for hysterectomies that doctors get and the attitude from which they are coming that is justifying their constant suggestion that we should have hysterectomies. Here's two examples, two stories this week I came across in my own life of women friends. Now, look, when we get older, there's this idea in the culture and from doctors that we're no longer sexual, we're no longer in any romances because they don't think we're lovable. They don't think anybody will be with us anyway, so what does it matter what happens to our womb? It's a hatred of the feminine that is completely unaware of the the way that the womb, the body, can heal itself, right, in a natural way. So here's a woman who is dealing with cancer, and that I came into my life, who really did need surgery. And they're going ahead and they're taking out everything they can, and it all looks good and clean. But then they suggest to her, even though they've taken out all the cancer, that they just take out her vaginal canal while they're at it and sew her shut. Wouldn't that be nice? You won't have to deal with anything anymore. Wouldn't that be nice to rob her of her womanhood? She's a newly married woman in her 60s, totally fallen in love for the first time in her life, and they don't see that as even a possibility in the medical profession when they look at older women. Now look, here's another woman comes into my life. She's bleeding. She's an older woman. She's almost 80. She's juicy, beautiful, full of life, full of love and romance in her heart and womanliness. And she's having a period suddenly. She's bleeding. So she goes to the doctors and they're like, oh, it's they look at everything like, what's happening is your walls of your womb are thick right now. So it's you're shedding the blood, just like when you have a period. Your walls get thick every month and then they shed. Well, she's somebody who's about to give birth to a major project. So it makes sense that at this point in her life, she would suddenly have a period, releasing the energy as she gives birth to this project. This is the spiritual other level of what our bodies do. They're always linked to what's going on in our lives, you know. So they suggest to her, they say, how about we just give you a hysterectomy and you won't have to deal with anything anymore, just for the fun of it. They don't even see the womb as like a needed, sacred, spiritual aspect of our bodies, whether or not it gives us some problems here and there. Within weeks, you know, her bleeding is gone and her womb has thinned itself on its own because that's what the womb is capable of. And they just can't fathom natural healing. Like they don't, it's not in there, and they can't fathom a sexy woman at 80. They don't get it, that it never goes away for us. Our womb, our love, our womanhood, our sexuality, it doesn't die actually like they think it should or would. And guess what else doesn't die? Our lovability. These are women who are loved by men deeply, who are you know, do not want them to die because life will not be as beautiful. So consider the payout they're getting for this hysterectomy thing that they're suggesting to you, okay? And take a moment to breathe into what is the symbolic thing going on with whatever your womb is doing right now. How much medical help do you want that does feel right? And where do you need to draw the line? You know, I have another friend who she had cancer, vaginal cancer of some kind, and the doctor once again was saying, how about we just give you a hysterectomy? She was a young woman, and she said, well, if I was your daughter, what would you say to your daughter? Oh, he'd say, oh, he says the doctor, no, I would just take out the cancer so that, you could have a baby. I would, oh, maybe it was one ovary or something, and then you can still be able to have a baby. Uh, and just, watch yourself healing, do special diets, which is what she did, by the way. And yes, she did have a baby, a couple years later. But he was going to give her a full hysterectomy at 35. So look, they want money, they want to be paid, they want convenience, they believe that our womanhood doesn't matter, they don't think we're sexy when we're older. These are sick assumptions. And some of these were women doctors, by the way, which doesn't make it any better or any worse. It's simply that we've bought and sold the lie that our wombs and our womanhood are not important, essential, sacred, and able to heal themselves on many levels with many kinds of herbal cures along with Western medicine. You can combine the two and you can have your womb back. You can have your health. You can have what you need to have to remain a woman with a pussy and pleasure capacity. Okay, so that's my take on it. Of course, this is your journey, and I am not a doctor, and I'm not pretending to be. I am simply a woman of the soul who sees your soul and the worth of your sexual, erotic power. And do remember that even if you do have to have a hysterectomy, or if you feel you do, that your sacred womb actually is not going to disappear because it's energetically will stay there. There will be a light, a space, a power that's a spiritual womb in you that will never be taken from you. But why take it physically if you don't have to? Okay, much love, darling. It's kind of like my friend who lost his arm in an accident. He said he could always feel his arm there after it was gone. He felt it moving. He felt it was like an aura of light that he always felt his arm there. So that's the truth about organs that are removed. The energetic spirituality is still there. But we are a system. We're a whole system. So let's give respect to the whole system. And we are a healing system. We're constantly healing ourselves. Look at this. Here's an idea to hold on to. Deepak Chopra writes about in his book, and he's a doctor, about how our cells are completely renewing themselves every couple months. One of our organs has all new cells. We're constantly getting new cells. So if that's true, that would mean that any part of our body that's dealing with cancer or illness would not have to replicate the cancer cells if it's getting all new cells. So what is the difference between when we replicate our cancer and when we don't? It might be spiritual. It might be a spiritual process. So check into it. Okay, much love, darling.